What's up, people? I'm Shaggy, the Opinionated Hippie, continuing my deep dive into Tom Waits' All Things catalog. This is my 14th release that I'm discussing, his 11th official studio album. This is 1992's Bone Machine. I'm going to review it, talk about it, not play music from it, rank it among the other 13 I've already done, and encourage you to go out and listen to it, to experience it, to bathe in its raw, brutal, violent, despairing, existentially dreadful, dark, not too optimistic, magnificent, mind-blowing musical experience. I'm going to argue that this is one of 4 perfect albums that Tom Waits has released thus far. Absolutely just, it's a stunner. There are 3 albums that he released in the 80s, Swordfish, Trombones, Rain Dogs, and Frank's Wild Years, which are generally considered to be like his big trilogy. He kind of went through a phase in the 70s, which were very much more of a jazzy, cocktail lounge is a weird word, but piano, drunkenness, low-life characters walking the streets of LA. At times there were horns. Throughout the 70s, he started adding little more percussive elements, adding some blues. But the run in the 70s was definitely of a period. He released a soundtrack album, which was just like, okay, that's this. And then he came back with 3 albums in the 80s, which I think made his name, established him as just an icon of whatever subgenre of rock and roll that he exists in. And Swordfish, Trombones, and Rain Dogs, I would argue, are perfect albums. Swordfish, Trombones was the new template of percussion-driven junkyard blues that he'd experimented with on like a Heart Attack and Vine. Now he was fully delving into. Rain Dogs was the absolute perfection of perfection. Frank's Wild Years was a little more playing around. Then he dropped a soundtrack to a Jim Jarmusch movie, Night on Earth, which to me feels like a natural extension of those 3. It's more instrumental, maybe a little more like confident in his playing with these genres and subgenres. Definitely not as weighty or as important as those first 3, but it felt very much a part of them. Then we get Bone Machine, released the same year as Night on Earth. Movie came out in 91, the soundtrack in 92. And this very much feels like part 5 of that trilogy. And where the first 3 seemed a little more like they're still driven by percussion. This is very driven by percussion. But the percussion on this one, appropriately, sounds like, in a lot of instances, bones hitting bones. There is a dryness to this percussion that just literally, it sounds like skeletons are like, playing the marimbas on their own rib cage. There is just a dryness to this that is just fantastic. And this almost feels like whatever he went through on Swordfish, Rain, Frank's was whatever was that musical experience. And it was grounded in people and the earth and living, the highs and lows, and characters, and your typical Tom Waits sort of milieu of lyrics and characters and world building. Night on Earth was like, hey, let's take this musical template and kind of journey around. Let's do songs inspired by LA and New York and Paris and Helsinki and kind of experiment a little bit. This one feels like he returns home. There's a song on here that to me feels like a direct response to some of the tracks on Night on Earth. It also feels like something happened in the meanwhile where he had to contemplate mortality. He had to face death, because this is Tom Waits' lyrics are not the most optimistic lyrics to begin with, but this is a not normally optimistic Tom Waits somehow being darker and more violent and more depressing and confronting death almost at every turn. In a just fascinating way. And we get like dirt in the ground, the earth died screaming, the ocean doesn't want me, super depressing song, Jesus gonna be here, apocalyptic end of the world type stuff, in the Colosseum, like imagine the worst stuff you can imagine about Roman Colosseums, we got this here. Murder in the Red Barn, Black Wings, like just a lot of really dark imagery, with one of the very last songs on the album being this almost Dylan-esque pop gem called I Don't Want to Grow Up. That is catchy, infectious, sounds like Dylan at his best, but is almost like a reflection of everything that came before. Like, I don't want to grow up. I want to be young. I want to be youthful. I don't like this getting old. This is an album that, like, I heard this album when I was 22. It came out when I was in college. It was the first Tom Waits album where I was like my musical knowledge had tenfold, 50-fold increased during college. Had amazing roommates, met amazing people, got into hardcore jazz for the first time. You know, the Dead stuff, did the Dead following stuff. But this was, when this came out, this was the first Tom Waits album I bought in like real time. I was like, oh, I'm getting this the day it came out. We just soaked myself in this. And I loved it back in the 90s. But over the decades, as I get older and I relate to these lyrics more, this album just gets better and better and better. It starts off with a song called The Earth Died Screaming, which I have this theory where I feel that like all of these albums, Swordfish Trombones, Rain Dogs, to some extent Frank's Wild Years, start off with like a door being opened and like a parade of some sort of musical spirit comes marching out to kind of sort of declare what this album's going to be like. And the first thing you hear in this album is that dry percussion that sound like bones are marching, maybe literally out of a graveyard, literally out of a cemetery plot. And they're circling you as Tom Waits eventually starts screaming, and the earth died screaming. This is not an upbeat song. This is not preparing you for an optimistic, upbeat journey. Just one of the lines in here that I think almost describes this album perfectly. Hell doesn't want you and heaven is full. You are stuck in purgatory for the next 56 minutes and Tom Waits is your spiritual musical guide. This is your full band junkyard blues with bony percussion. The ending gets all like almost pseudo twisted classical with like, I think it's horns that actually come in, but they're really like mutated and sort of messed around with. So they're like blurred together. So it's meant to be almost this triumphant ending, but it just sounds like, blah, like screaming almost. It's an opener that if it's too much for you, just turn off the album now and go somewhere else because it just continues to get darker. The next song, my only complaint about this entire album is I think songs 2 and 3 should have been switched. The second song, Dirt in the Ground, is this absolutely hypnotic, woozy, kind of Waits walking in a daze type thing, sort of a lazy vibe. The whole thing is sort of like, what? Why does it matter? What does it matter? We're all going to end up dirt in the ground. It's an absolutely amazing song lyrically, musically. The lyrics go from like personal experiences to biblical stuff. Just an all-time classic, if you ask me. The third song, Such a Scream, is a little more upbeat, a little more of that funky junkyard sound, jazzy with some crazy bigger percussion, some bigger Tom Waits vocals. You got some horns come in there, some nice electric guitar. If there is one thing I would change about this album, Earth Died Screaming, then Such a Scream, then kind of lower us into the Dirt in the Ground thing, because I feel like the Dirt in the Ground, it's really weighty and heavy and is in many ways more of a statement about this album than I think Earth Died Screaming is. I think Earth Died Screaming is a necessary opener. It kind of repeats the underground vibe from like Swordfish Trombones. It works really good with that. I think it works really well with the Singapore vibe from Rain Dogs. But I think Such a Scream and Dirt in the Ground make this a slightly better flow to the album. Then we get All Stripped Down as song number 4, which is probably the most Captain Beefheartian thing that he does. This sounds like middle period Beefheart, like mid-70s type stuff. All stripped down, all stripped down. Like this could be a Beefheart song. Like I think I thought this was a Beefheart song for decades. Has a herky-jerky medley to it. Has a lo-fi recording quality that just enhances the sort of all stripped down Beefheartian isms of the whole thing. Fantastic song. Then we get Who Are You, which is just could not come at a better time. It is a beautiful, moody ballad, kind of flirts with, when Tom Waits sort of flirts with that Bruce Springsteen lyricism and vibe, kind of flirts with that. We get everything from like, and this is the thing that makes me think of Bruce, is there's like a tilt-a-whirl early on, which just for me, I think of like Asbury Park and the boardwalk and stuff like that. But you get a tilt-a-whirl to Ophelia. You got guns in the Bible. The lyrics are all over the place. It's an absolutely beautiful song. I think it even works better because you already have these 4 super intense songs that precede it. Even Dirt in the Ground, which has this woozy sort of melancholiness about it, has an intensity to it that this one just kind of lightens up on. Like it flirts with just that classic 70 Tom Waits vibe. Just the perfect sequencing. Could not come at a better time. And as we go through this album, there are a number of these just really sweet melodic songs that are buried in all kind of Tom Waits isms, right, to give it a darker, murkier vibe. But at the core of this, there is just a beautiful, beautiful song that kind of you need by this point in the album. Next is The Ocean Doesn't Want Me, which is stark. It's lonely. It's sparse. It's about a man who, it's like 2 minutes long, a man who just is feeling utter despair. I think his goal is to walk into the ocean and then not come back out of the ocean. But for some reason, the ocean doesn't want him. So he can't commit to this act that he wants to commit. It is a very depressing song. But we applaud the ocean for not accepting him. Jesus Gonna Be Here. Then we get your just awesome Tom Waits gospel number. Absolutely amazing. This is a junkyard sermon. Jesus Gonna Be Here. Like, prepare yourself, people. This is an apocalyptic. Feels like it's like if you took like the Fat Albert show and you made like a Christian and apocalyptic Christian version of that. You could see the main character walking around, maybe singing this as the theme song. Amazing, amazing song. We get A Little Rain, which is like an old school Tom Waits piano ballad, little pedal steel country vibe going back in the background. The lyrics, I think it might be about a guy who digs graves, a grave digger, because he's got a shovel. He's in a bar just commenting on things. The last verse is about a girl who kind of ran away from home, and I think that's like the last time they saw her, the last thing they ever did, something along those lines. So and I think there might be a little rain when he's out there. Who knows? But there's a sad darkness to this that is typical of Tom Waits stuff. And then we get in the Colosseum, which the percussion and bass sort of motif that establishes this, especially when you listen to it in like headphones, it almost feels like you're being surrounded by, like, the drums are not letting you leave and the bass is not letting you leave. Like you're in a Colosseum. Don't try to leave, because it's just violence. It's just darkness. This is your full Tom Waits, not like a Frank's Wild Years character-driven Circus Barker type performance, but you do get a sense of like, come see all the horrible stuff that's happening in the Colosseum. Darkly intense lyrics. Over the years, I've read articles, reviews. I don't think I've ever heard Tom actually comment on this song about how this might be a commentary on the modern political structure, politics in the 90s or whatever. If it is, it's like a line or two near the end, because we mentioned politicians at one point. But for me, it just seems like it's a celebration of violence. And it just fits right in with the darkness of this album. Then we get the swag song. This album's version of 16 Shells from a 30-06. You're like really swag rocker with this awesome sort of spaghetti western type guitar that goes through the whole thing. It's about heading out west. One of my favorite lines that I have quoted way too many times: I got hair on my chest. I look good without a shirt. Bum, 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 bum. Absolutely swag song about somebody going out west to just absolutely amazing. This is just, going out west. I thought this was the song that was a response to Night on Earth. In the Jim Jarmusch Night on Earth soundtrack, Tom Waits is tasked with writing songs about LA, New York, Paris, and Helsinki. And for me, the only one that like definitively works are the two LA tracks. The New York tracks, I think, are the weakest on there. The Paris tracks definitely evoke a sort of Paris cafe, walking on the sign type thing, but have a jazziness to them that's a little light. The Helsinki one is good. It's kind of cold and reminds me of that sort of Helsinki rigidity, just the cleanliness, and just my limited experience. I was there for an afternoon and a night while traveling on trains at one point. But the LA ones killed it. He knows LA. And it feels like after he went through that experience, he was like, I'm going back west. And he wrote this just utter swag song about just going back to LA and being a beast, being a boss. Then we get Murder in the Red Barn. Perfect mid-tempo, kind of slow things down a little after the swag of going out west. This is about an actual murder in like 1827 England. Based on it, inspired by it, shall we say. If you Google it, you'll find out that everybody's like, well, doesn't really have anything to do with what actually happened. So, but it's a good song. A lot of dark imagery about just centered around a farm where there's violence. Then we get Black Wings, which has this awesome flow to it. Kind of reminds me of a Dire Straits adjacent country folk rock vibe, but also just feels like 100% Tom Waits. It's about this character who's seems both good and evil. Like he'll do this good thing, but he also does this dark thing. He's ignorant, but he's also enlightenment. Like he's all these like polar opposites of things that compete, but also, the character of like, most of the characters of people like Satan are these like really intelligent, things with these contradictions that work within them. That seems to be who this Black Wings character is. Then we get another absolutely gorgeous, gorgeous song, Whistle Down the Wind, piano ballad, voice, little pedal steel action. This is about somebody who's just heartbroken. There's a desperation. There's a guy who's been in this place all of his life and he just wants out of there. And he's got this idea that maybe he's going to hop on a train at a certain point and whistle down the wind and just escape this place and move on to a better future. But it's like, you feel like it's not going to happen. Like we've heard this song before. We've seen this character. We know it's going to not end up well. But nonetheless, the portrait, the performance, the song nails it anyways. And then we get I Don't Want to Grow Up, which is 2 minutes and 32 seconds of pop, folk, pop, rock, Tom Waits channels, Bob Dylan perfection. I don't want to grow up. It's Dylan with a thick layer of Waits fuzz on it. This is one of those songs as I get older, these lyrics get better and better and better. I think the Ramones covered this because it's a punk song. It's just, and it doesn't really wash away the violence of the preceding 50 minutes, but it makes it a little more palpable because you get to this and you're just, I don't want to grow up. It's amazing. Then we get Let Me Get Up on it. We get like just short of a minute of percussion and Waits just kind of make it in the microphone. Like 50 minutes of just kind of atmospherics. And then we end with That Feel. Well, there's one thing you can't lose. It's that feel. There is this, it's an amazing closer. This nice little guitar melody that kind of seeps throughout the whole thing that sounds really familiar. The performance is drunk and tired. Tom Waits always does a really good job of dropping these songs at the end of albums that feel like they naturally come at the end of the album. So as exhausted as we are to have gone through all of this, especially if you're paying attention to the lyrics, you kind of feel it in this performance. Kind of reminds me of Deer Tick, like that 2010s era alt country, soft rock type thing that was kind of big then. Kind of has that feel. Great closer. It has that feel. That feel. This is a fantastic album, people. Like, I absolutely love this thing. It gets better every decade, gets better every year, gets better every month. It's just, I love the way it's mic'd. If you listen to this in good headphones, there are songs where like, you feel like, wait, is that happening in my house? There's someone at my door. Like there's percussion behind percussion, underneath percussion. Like sometimes it's super soft, sometimes it's a little more prominent, but just the production on this is fantastic. All of the percussion on this is fantastic. This is just This is a special album. I absolutely love this. In deciding where to rank it, I had a hard time because there's 4 albums at this point. Rain Dogs, Swordfish Trombones, Small Change, which I would argue are perfect. This would be the 4th of those absolutely perfect albums. And this was the one I heard first. This was the one I fell in love with first. This was the one that officially kicked me down and into the Tom Waits rabbit hole. With all that being said, I even had to go back and listen to a couple albums just to make sure I had this ranking right. All that being said, this is an S tier. It's a perfect 10, but I have it ranked right there. I have it at 2. I got to admit, Rain Dogs just, it lingers a little longer and hits a little harder at times. And I think it's a little more of a roller coaster ride. Swordfish Trombones was close, but I Don't Want to Grow Up and that swag, things like Who Are You and those softer songs, The Dirt in the Ground. There are so many things on here which just, they're all as, those top 4, Small Change, Swordfish, this, Rain Dogs, those are perfect albums, people. Like, you can't go wrong. It's just going down to preference. Like, if you'd asked me to do this in 92, I only knew this one really well. Didn't know the other ones as well as I do now. If you'd asked me to do this in 2002, this probably would have been number 1. It slipped a little bit because I think the absolute perfection of Rain Dogs has just won me over. But I still think this is, I think you cannot go wrong with this. I still think this is a 10 S+ tier. I think it's perfect. So yeah, I'm done. That's all I got to say about this. Amazing, amazing, amazing. Check it out if you haven't. That's all I got. Subscribe, like, share, comment. Thanks for watching. Peace. Talk to you later.